Thank you for coming, everyone. I'm delighted to be here and to have the opportunity to represent the Computers Privacy and Data Protection Conference, or Cpdp, as it is known among the privacy community, as its managing director. I also introduce some of our long-term colleagues and partners who we've invited here today. We have Mr. Leonardo Cervera Navas, Director of the European Data Protection Supervisor, Dr. Rob van Eyck, Managing Director for Europe at the Future of Privacy Forum, Professor Gloria González Fuster, Professor at the Vrije Universiteit Brussels, Professor Paul de Hert, Founder and Director of CPDP, who is joining us very shortly, and Thierry van den Busche, Arts and Events Director at CPDP. So very briefly, I will just give an overview of CPDP this year, our sort of intentions and ambition for next week. So CPDP has been part of the Brussels fabric for 15 years, and after a fully online event last year, we really cannot imagine a better way to celebrate our 15th anniversary than to meet everybody in person once again next week. It is precisely our European and global partners that make the conference what it is today, a true melting pot of disciplines, of perspectives, and in designing the program for this year, we have more than 90 panel discussions with over 400 speakers representing academia, legal practice, industry, data protection authorities, lawmakers, civil society, artists, and privacy activists, all coming together to unpack and debate some of the most pressing issues facing the digital society today. We also bring these debates under an umbrella theme to help guide the conversation. So this year's program is united by the theme Data Protection and Privacy in Transitional Times. When we were reflecting upon this theme together with the CPDP Scientific Committee, which is a group of senior academics from partner universities in Europe and beyond, we were very much still in the depths of the pandemic. And particularly since the onset of COVID-19, we've seen that emergency measures have pushed societies into an intensified adoption of and reliance on digital solutions. We've seen work from home orders, online education, digital vaccine passes, and border closures, just to name but a few of the features of our new normal. And with this, our dependence on a few companies for vital technological infrastructure raises urgent questions. The allure of efficient algorithms and artificial intelligence systems also brings us to this pivotal moment where we can collaboratively set a sustainable agenda for the governance of such systems and technologies. So to give only a few examples, we've seen European Union efforts in setting the tone of such an agenda clearly in the rules proposed by the EU AI Act, which will be one of the key topics of discussion during this year's CPDP. Within an atmosphere of openness, stakeholders will assess the impacts of the adoption of AI in a variety of contexts, such as healthcare, mobility, online platforms, education, and employment. But beyond issues of privacy and data protection, it is also of vital importance to explore the central themes affecting today's digital society in a wider context, mainly of pre-existing power relations and with the goal of ensuring that technology unites rather than divides as communities. Similarly, we also see the fundamental rights dimension of international data flows is very high on the agenda at this year's conference. We also see a need for a truly transatlantic dialogue, and this is why, especially this year, we will be joined by data protection authorities and regulators from around the world. These discussions will go beyond the issues of data flows and also towards questions of regulation, and particularly to have an open dialogue around enforcement challenges and cooperation. This year, many high-level discussions will touch upon the dynamics of decision-making in the design of new technologies, including the importance of inclusion, diversity, and ethics perspectives within these processes. So as we will reflect upon these dynamics next week, the privacy community will also revert to a few of the foundational questions. So how do we create laws and standards that effectively address new challenges and protect fundamental rights? How do we collectively design a digital future, and how can we create sustainable systems of infrastructure to support it? Finally, we're also delighted to announce that besides 3 days full of such debates, this year's CPDP starts with its opening night on Sunday, 22 May, where we will welcome activist and security analyst Chelsea Manning. Having recently returned from the Ukrainian-Polish border, Manning will speak about the urgency of private and secure communications, in this case for trans rights activism under conditions of conflict. Finally, while the issues to be discussed here in Brussels in the following days very much reflect present challenges in the digital world, Cpdp also aims to provide the platform to highlight the importance of a multidisciplinary approach to devising an agenda for what an inclusive digital future may look like. And now I stop, and I'm delighted to pass the word on to Mr. Leonardo Cervera Navas of the European Data Protection Supervisor.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome, Paul. I am delighted to be here.
The sound is not.
Yeah.
Maybe this one.
Now it works? Okay. So, I'm delighted to be here representing the European Data Protection Supervisor. Our supervisor, Wojciech Wieborowski, couldn't make it because he's in his way to the spring conference of the European Data Protection Authority, so I'm acting here on his behalf today. And the reason why we are here today is to express our warm support to the Cpdp conference, which is one of the most important events on data protection around the world. The EDPS has been supporting this conference for many years now, and we are very active in many panels and in many topics, and we are delighted to see this happening back to the real world again. And just one thought from my side, this theme of the conference, transitional times. I think we have reached a point where we are slowly starting to realize that technological progress without proper regulation is totally pointless. All the steps ahead that we do, if they are not properly thought of, regulated, usually lead to a step backs for lack of governance, lack of regulation, unethical behaviors, etc. So I think it is becoming very, very important to open up the dialogue to the scientific community and to independent voices that can really guide us on the way we should regulate new technologies. And Cpdp is traditionally one of those places where independent, fully researched voices are heard. That's why Wojciech Wieborowski, our supervisor, is always so keen to support these endeavors. So I'm very happy to be here, and I wish all the best to the conference next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such kind words of support. Professor Gonzalez Fuster, I also pass on to you.
Thank you very much, and welcome everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here. So I'm a research professor at VUB. I'm the co-director of LSTS Research Group, and we have been with Cpdp since the beginning, but it's for me really a pleasure to be here, and I'm really looking forward next week. Now almost I cannot sleep anymore thinking about Cpdp, but really I've been attending Cpdp for many years, and I always say it's for me it's like Christmas. It's even better than Christmas when you have a big family, and that's the day where all these people meet, and you see the people that you really want to see, and also some people that you know vaguely, you don't know anymore how do you know them, but you're happy to see them there. I'm an academic, and as an academic, it's really a pleasure to be there. It's a privilege to see many people coming from everywhere, from the world, coming from different backgrounds. So Cpdp is not an academic event, it's a multi-stakeholder event, and that's very interesting for academics too, to be in contact with all sorts of people working in data protection. My own involvement in Cpdp this year is taking different forms. I'm involved in what is called the Privacy Camp. So a few words about the Privacy Camp. Normally, Privacy Camp is an event that takes place the day before Cpdp. It's a civil society oriented event, but it's not just for civil society and academics, activists who want to think about digital rights. this privacy camp also welcomes a collaboration with the European Data Protection Supervisor, which is the Privacy Camp EDPS Civil Society Summit. Normally, it takes place the day before Cpdp, and it's really great. But this year, we still wanted to have Privacy Camp in January, so we were a bit. We went a bit independent, but then we thought it's important that we bring back the discussion that we had then into Cpdp. So we will have a session on the Wednesday of Cpdp, which is called, I think, Privacy Camp Occupies Cpdp or Preoccupies Cpdp. And we will try to bring indeed there the voices of Cpdp. This Privacy Camp this year, the subject was digital rights at the margins. How do we put into the center of the discussion the digital rights of those who are at the margins? That's one of the things that it's important for me. In this context, for many years already I had the chance and really the privilege to have the support of Cpdp to organize every single year at Cpdp one panel on gender-related issues. That has been, I think, now there for 7 years or 8 years. Every year we have at least one panel where we think about the relation between data protection, privacy, digital rights, and gender issues. And now with artificial intelligence, there is a lot of discussion, but 8 years ago there was not a lot of discussion. So it's an important discussion to keep this alive. We think about gender inequality. We think also about very fundamental issues about gender. This year, the panel is about the rights, the digital rights of trans individuals and non-binary binary persons. How do we make sure that their rights are also protected? It's a very fascinating subject, the question of gender categories, gender data collection. How do we think about all this? But I hope to see you all there in this panel. And just the final thing that I want to talk about and promote is a side event that will take place on the first day, on the Monday, and it's the first real-life event of the Data Protection Scholars Network. So Data Protection Law Scholars Network, that's a new initiative that we have created last year. And it's a network of academics, of researchers working on data protection law, because we love to see institutions and everybody, all sorts of companies and representatives and lobbyists and whatever. We love everybody, but we also like to have a moment where academics meet other academics and have just the time to discuss what are you doing, what's your research about, what are you doing, what are you researching, how are you doing this. So we will have this moment on the Monday just to network among academics doing data protection law research, and I'm really, really looking forward to that too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Dr. Rob van Eyck of Future of Privacy Forum.
Thank you very much, and welcome everyone. Thank you for coming and showing interest. Well, we started today with highlighting that the policy discussion is important, and to give you a little bit of a flavor of what's happening next week, I'll give you 2 examples. The first one is that at Future Privacy Forum, which I'm heading here in Europe as the managing director, we try to explain how technology works, because with a deep understanding of how the data flows actually work, it facilitates the policy discussion on how to regulate or maybe even to stimulate new developments. And the plug for a coming Wednesday is a masterclass on privacy enhanced technologies. And there are so many new buzzwords. I mean, the last 10 years, the advances in mathematics have progressed enormously, and they're being applied by a number of companies. But in order for non-technical people to understand what these technologies mean and how they benefit protecting data flows, we invited 4 data scientists to explain the 3 technologies. And the 3 technologies are synthetic data, homomorphic encryption, and differential privacy. And these are really important concepts to understand, not just from the technical component, because we're not going to explain the mathematics behind them, but to hear from the practitioners, the people who work with these tools on a day-by-day basis to help us understand what the added value of these tools is. And from synthetic data, we invited Lucy Mosquera of Replica Analytics. Replica Analytics is one of the most outstanding organizations at the moment. It's led by Colette Eleman, and Dr. Eleman has done groundbreaking work on synthetic data, specifically in the data protection privacy context. We invited Anise Hollonan from IBM to explain to us what differential privacy is and how do you use it and what the benefits are. And we have Dr. Sophie Stella Bourdillon and Alfred Rossi of a small company, Immuta, and they will explain to us how homomorphic encryption works. Well, against the background of the update of the anonymization and pseudonymization guidelines of the European Data Protection Board, but also in the background the discussion on international data flows and the supplementary measures, I think it's really interesting to understand what the scope is of applicability and to what extent anonymization can be reached. And whether, and that's the big question, if you have a data set where homomorphic encryption or differential privacy or synthetic data has been applied to, is there still utility in that data? Can you still use it? Or is it just statistics that are left and that we can, it's not really useful anymore, and the consequence then will be that everything will be personal data. Which brings me to more the second plug I wanted to add. We do a panel on Tuesday, and the panel is about sharing mobility data, it's about data spaces, it's about the Data Act, and this is more like a policy topic, a policy discussion. But if you first understand the technology, then you can have the discussion on what are the implications on society, who are the different stakeholders, how is this going to affect them, the people, the organization who collect and process and share the data, but also how is it going to impact the data subjects, you and me, who are using public transportation or electric scooters. So the topic of this discussion, like I said, is sharing mobility data for the common good. It needs careful assessment because the context obviously matters. And to what extent can citizens benefit from mobility data without having to sacrifice their rights or freedoms? And in this panel we'll dive into the upcoming EU mobility data space, which is one of the 10 data spaces proposed by the European Commission. And furthermore, we will explain how the Data Act may tap the potential of horizontal, so cross-sector data sharing, while empowering citizens to make better decisions and protect their privacy. And we're very, very fortunate to have the DG Connect represented by Anna Ludin, but also David Wagner from the German Research Institute of Public Administration. Laura Serrato will help us here in this discussion from the Centre d'Informatique pour la Région de Brussels, but also Arjen Kaptein, my former colleague at the Dutch Data Protection Authority. And the Dutch DPA released a guidance on smart cities last year, so it's very much on topic and helps us to understand basically the policy issues that underpin this current regulatory landscape, but also the regulatory proposals that are coming out from the Commission at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. Thierry, I pass the mic on to you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm part of the team of Privacy Salon, organizing Cpdp, and my role is to shine a light on a more meta perspective towards the topics that we've all been talking about. There's always been a strong interest at Cpdp to listen and appreciate the voices of artists and how artists look at the topics of data use and how it influences or impacts individuals or society. So it is also a strong tool to visualize the issues at stake, because Cpdp is also a very technical conference. So it is sometimes very interesting to look at the perspective of artists and how they translate the issues at stake. Next to the very packed main program, like Bianca stated already, more than 90 panels and more than 400 speakers. Next to that, we also have a very strong side event program. And some of those workshops and presentations have already been mentioned here. There's a lot more. There is a curated bookshop that's open all day during CPDP. There are exhibitions, and they all make part of Privacytopia, which is at a privacy salon a goal. Privacytopia is an arts festival that will be launched in 2023, and it originates from a history of creating exhibitions in Brussels with partners, with cultural partners like Beaux-Arts and like Botanique and many more. Voilà, creating a festival on the topics of data use and its implications will be very interesting. And part of this program, for example, is an artists in residence program, and that's also very present in our site event program this year. The artist in residence program is a program where we constantly connect artists to the partners of CPDP. I can give you a couple of examples. Brussels artist Emmanuel van der Aura, for example, collaborates with Europol, and the artists Ben Vandenberg and Alexei Schlick, for example, are collaborating already with EDPS as artists in residence. And the results of collaborations from last year will be on show at Area 42, one of the venues of CPDP, where she analyzes workspace surveillance, and it results from meetings and talks that she had last year during our probably only virtual edition of CPDP, but never be sure about that. Another interesting project comes from Effie and Amir, who are researching biometric voice technologies. They have a video installation presented, and they are also present at CPDP because they really want to connect with everyone who is involved in this kind of technology from a tech perspective, or maybe from a law perspective, or any perspective possible could be interesting. So there is a lot. I invite you to look at the site event program on our website. And voilà, and try to enjoy also these programs on the side of the CPDP program. And I also want to say two more things for practical reasons. I also introduce Jelle Hoedemakers from AR for Belgium, who's also gonna talk about their presence at CPDP and their project. And I'm also gonna swap places with Professor Paul de Hertz, who will also say a few words in a minute. Okay.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Thierry, for the introduction. So I'm Jelle Hoedemakers. I'm here representing AI for Belgium. AI for Belgium is one of the sponsors of CPDP. Also on a daily basis, I work for Agoria, so it's an industry federation for the technology industry in Belgium, and one of the founders of AI for Belgium. Maybe a couple of words on AI for Belgium. It is the grassroots initiative on AI in Belgium, of course, where we bring together all the stakeholders in the field, maybe some figures, and we have around 450 organizations which are connected to us, representing 1,700 experts, and in total we can say we have around 6,000 members who are participating in our community. Within AI for Belgium, there's a strategy where one of the main goals is to promote the uptake of trustworthy AI in Europe. To govern all that, we have a specific working group, which is focusing on ethics and law, which I'm co-leading. We have a board to run these things where we bring together people from academia, from civil society, but also from the different regions in Belgium to discuss all these topics. And I'd like to say that we try to act as a mirror between everything that's happening in Europe on AI, ethics and law, and the Belgian community. Because often, let's say, small SMEs or people who don't have that much time or resources to invest, they have difficulty of understanding what's happening in Europe. So the main goal is that we try to bring the actions on AI, for example, on the ethical guidelines or on the white paper or on the AI Act towards our community, discuss these, and also give a channel to participate in feedback. During our session for Cpdp today, not today, but on Monday, we will focus very specifically on generation AI. I think today every child born will be heavily influenced by this technology. And this is causing, of course, some concerns, but there are also probably some opportunities. Mainly, we want to focus on trying to get a grasp of what are those different concerns and how can we address them. And for this, we gathered a very interesting panel as well. So we have Professor Eva Lievens from the Faculty of Law and Criminology in UGent. We have Liliana Carrillo from Collective UP. We have Maud Stirnet, who is working on accessibility within We3C. Leila Keizer from the IT Law Department in Bilgi University, and finally Clara Pigmans from the TU Delft, who also participated in the UNICEF policy guidelines and recommendations on AI and children, so a very relevant panel. We will not only focus on the negative parts, but also look towards how can we ensure that in the future children have the right knowledge and tools to handle AI. Because we believe that education on this topic, even for children, is quite important, so they can get a grasp on it themselves. So that's a bit very shortly what we'll discuss. Very happy to see you all during our session on Monday.
Thank you, Jelle. Just before we take some questions, I'd like to give the final word to Professor Paul de Hurt, who is the founder of Cpdp.
Thank you. Hello. I'm who has founded Cpdp? It's a question that is out there, but I was amongst those who founded it, and I was definitely so happy with the experience that I continued it, and then it grew and grew and grew, and now it is a bottom-up thing. It is difficult to say what's going to be not to be missed on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, because if you truly believe in a bottom-upwards type of event, there are a lot of surprises, and there are many, many people that you haven't seen and that we before. There is not one single theme at Cpdp, and it has never been. So we choose very loose themes, but we feel as a programming team that there are changes, and so what have we done? We have adapted to our partners in the field, and the result every year is the outcome of an interactive process with a lot of stakeholders. And we concentrated first and foremost on the Brussels-based stakeholders. So Brussels is a unique setting for technology because we like to regulate it. So the Brussels stands for a knowledge center on how to regulate technology in all its aspects. Could be security, could be competition, could be consumer rights, but also privacy and other values. And so we have many people with a strong voice in those debates localized in Brussels, and Cpdp is respectful to that basic fact that without these people there wouldn't be this unique attraction of Brussels as a regulatory capital. So we like to collaborate with all Brussels-based people, and on that basis create a very open setting for and invite many other people. And so that explains the high number of speakers. It also explains the high number of non-European speakers that we attract every year. Now, what have we learned from the past years is that we all work with screens, and it works a little bit. It helps when physical meets are not possible. And we are keeping the fully digital model for a global event at Cpdp, where we start very early at sunrise with those countries that are awakening, and end with at the other end of the day with those countries that are also awakening. So that's the beauty of it. I think it goes from Asia to America.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not good in those things. But so, and we hope that there are early birds in America that will watch the first panels and so on, and late birds in Asia that will watch the last panels. And by that, we hope to create something of a really, truly global dialogue, because we are open to signals from outside Europe. Europe is a reference point, but it won't be a strong reference point if it wasn't attentive to actions and initiatives happening outside Europe. And so, for instance, just to give a small example, if the Indian Supreme Court talks about privacy, talks about technology and infringing human liberties, we're listening, because India is a very important voice in the debate, and it's also a country and a legal system that has come back several times at Cpdp. So I'm looking forward to this edition. I'm going to try to get through the program myself. I'm going to choose the right footwear so I can do many panels, and it starts on Sunday evening. And so what is the connection between privacy, data protection, and whistleblowing? Well, for us, there is a strong connection. It's also, whistleblowing is about giving away data, data that needs to be given away in the eyes of the person doing it for the common good. And so it's a kind of open data policy where we try to live with. And interesting, for the level of complexity that we dare to regulate is the European idea to have a fully fledged law on whistleblowing, creating grounds for justification for bringing data in the open. That's very interesting. And from a privacy perspective, that could be problematic. But as we recognize that all these values enshrined in European Convention on Human Rights and the EU Charter are interdependent, we actually like to regulate those things, and we like that we open up for those things. So we have a feeling that whistleblowing fits as an issue, as a question, as a theme on a privacy conference, and I have also experienced in my own career, and I worked for a data protection authority, that data protection authorities were from the start very active in making access to government data and so on possible. So there are very strange transactions, but they all have to do with a sense of dignity and proud about all these European values that we try to uphold even in very difficult times of transition. So I thank you for everybody being here, you especially, but also the speakers and Bianca for having set this up.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everyone. So I think before we conclude, if there are any questions, now is the right moment. No question? Yep. No? Okay, I thought you put your hand up. Okay, then I would like to thank you all so much for your words this morning, and to you for joining us, and we very much look forward to finally getting started with Cpdp. There's been so much work happening kind of in the background. So from Sunday evening at 6 p.m. In Area 42, right through to Wednesday evening here in Brussels, Area 42 and Les Halles d'Escarbeek. Hopefully see you all there, and thank you.